The invitation to Janet Thompson's third wedding sat on my kitchen counter like a ticking bomb. Bold embossed letters on cream cardstock announced her upcoming marriage to Bradley Henderson, retired CEO and millionaire. The invitation was addressed only to my husband, Michael. My name had been deliberately, pointedly omitted. I'm Claire Thompson, owner of Thompson Security Solutions, one of Chicago's top home security firms. The irony of being accused of theft by my mother-in-law while running a security company wasn't lost on me. But then again, Janet had never appreciated irony. Or me, for that matter. From the moment I married her precious son 5 years ago, Janet made it clear I wasn't the wife she'd envisioned for Michael. I was too independent, too focused on my career, everything. The fact that I'd built my company from scratch while Michael was still finishing medical school particularly rankled her. A woman should support her husband, she'd say during our forced family dinners, not compete with him. I'd usually bite my tongue, reminding myself that my security systems protected some of Chicago's wealthiest homes, including Janet's sprawling Lakeshore Drive mansion. I'd installed it myself as a wedding gift to her and her second husband, George, 2 years ago. That marriage had lasted exactly 18 months before ending in an acrimonious divorce. Now, 6 months after her divorce, Janet was getting married again. Bradley Henderson was everything she'd always wanted in a husband: wealthy, influential, and most importantly, traditional in his views about marriage and gender roles. Bradley says a wife should focus on creating a beautiful home, she gushed during the engagement announcement. Her eyes had locked with mine as she added, "Not everyone understands the importance of traditional values these days." I might have let the subtle dig slide, as I had for years. But then came the incident with the jewelry. It happened 3 weeks ago. Janet had invited Michael and me for dinner, supposedly to discuss wedding preparations. Bradley was there, along with his daughter Madison, a woman around my age who seemed to share her father's conservative views. Of course, Janet announced over dessert, "I'll be wearing my grandmother's sapphire necklace for the wedding. It's been worn by every bride in our family for 4 generations." I remembered that necklace. Janet had shown it to me once, shortly after my wedding to Michael, while explaining why I hadn't been allowed to wear it. "It's for real family," she'd said. "Blood family." But now there was a problem. The necklace was missing from its usual place in her wall safe. "I know exactly what happened to it," Janet declared, her voice dripping with accusation. "The last person to work on my security system was Claire. She must have seen me open the safe." The room fell silent. Michael started to protest, but Janet wasn't finished. Come to think of it, quite a few things had gone missing since Claire started working on our security. "My tennis bracelet, my diamond earrings." "Mother," Michael interrupted, "you can't seriously be suggesting." "Why not?" Madison chimed in. "It makes perfect sense. She has access to all these wealthy homes, knows their security systems inside and out." I sat there, stunned by the casual way they were destroying my reputation. My company's reputation. Everything I'd spent years building. "Actually," I said, keeping my voice steady, "your security system records everything. Every time the safe is opened, every person who enters or exits the house." "Would you like me to pull up the footage?" Janet's face flickered with something, fear? But she recovered quickly. "The system has been acting up lately, probably tampered with. That's why Bradley's having it replaced next week." That was news to me. I was about to respond when Bradley cleared his throat. "I think it's best if we keep the wedding intimate. Family only, you understand, Claire." And just like that, I was uninvited from my mother-in-law's wedding. The drive home that night was tense. Michael was furious, threatening to skip the wedding himself. But I had other plans forming. "Go to the wedding," I told him. "Trust me." The next day, I started digging. As Chicago's premier security expert, I had access to a lot of information. Janet might be having my system replaced, but I still had weeks of backup footage stored securely on my servers. What I found made my blood run cold. The footage showed Janet entering her house late at night 2 weeks ago, clearly intoxicated, accompanied by a man who wasn't Bradley. They stumbled to her bedroom, where the wall safe was located. The next morning, the man left carrying a small bag. 3 days later, Janet reported her first missing piece of jewelry to the insurance company. Further investigation revealed the man was a known associate of her ex-husband, George. The pieces started falling into place. Janet was working with George to stage a jewelry theft, probably to fund some aspect of her lavish wedding to Bradley, but she needed a scapegoat, and I was the perfect target. I took the evidence to Michael. He watched the footage in silence, his doctor's hands clenched into fists. "She's trying to frame you," he said finally, "to destroy your business. All because I don't fit her image of a proper wife," I finished. "The question is, what are we going to do about it?" Michael looked at me, recognizing the tone in my voice. "You have a plan." "I do." I pulled out my laptop, showing him what I discovered. "Your mother doesn't know it, but when I installed her security system, I included some features she never knew about. Features that are about to become very interesting at her wedding." "Claire," Michael said slowly, "what exactly are you planning?" I smiled, thinking about the elaborate security system at the Drake Hotel, where Janet's wedding reception would be held. A system that, coincidentally, my company had installed last year. Let's just say your mother's wedding video is going to have some unexpected footage. The next 2 weeks passed in a blur of preparation. Janet was busy with last-minute wedding details, probably thinking she'd successfully sidelined me. She didn't know I was preparing a wedding surprise of my own. Michael played his part perfectly, acting appropriately upset about my exclusion, but eventually accepting it to keep the peace. Meanwhile, I was coordinating with Sam Martinez, my head of technical operations, ensuring everything was in place for the reception. "The hotel's video system is ready," Sam confirmed the day before the wedding. "All the footage has been verified and synced. Are you sure about this, boss?" I thought about my reputation, my business, everything Janet had tried to destroy with her casual accusations. "Yes," I said firmly, "it's time everyone saw the truth." The morning of the wedding, I sat in my home office, watching the security feeds from both Janet's house and the Drake Hotel. I saw her arriving early, watched her fuss over her dress, not wearing the family sapphire necklace I noticed, and observed the guests arriving. Then I saw something that made me sit up straight. George, Janet's ex-husband, slipping into the hotel through a service entrance. He wasn't supposed to be anywhere near the wedding. Whatever Janet was planning, it was happening today. I picked up my phone and dialed Sam's number. "Change of plans," I said. "We need to move faster than we thought." Sometimes the best revenge isn't serving a cold dish, it's stopping someone from serving their own. Part 2. The wedding ceremony went exactly as Janet had planned. Elegant, traditional, and completely focused on her. Through the hotel's security feeds, I watched her walk down the aisle in a designer gown that probably cost more than most people's cars. Bradley beamed at her from the altar, completely unaware of what his bride had been up to. I noticed Madison, Bradley's daughter, sitting in the front row, occasionally glancing at her phone. Something about her behavior seemed off, but I couldn't quite put my finger on it. The reception was being held in the Drake's Gold Coast room, its crystal chandeliers and ornate decor perfectly suited to Janet's taste for grandeur. As guests filed in for the celebration, I watched George, Janet's ex-husband, skulking near the service entrance. He was dressed as a waiter, but I knew the hotel's staff roster. He definitely wasn't supposed to be there. "Sam," I said into my phone, "are you in position?" "Ready when you are, boss," he confirmed. "Hotel security has been briefed. They're watching every exit." I'd spent the morning coordinating with the hotel's security team, sharing the evidence I'd gathered. They were as eager as I was to prevent any potential theft or disruption. The reception began with the usual festivities: first dance, toasts, dinner service. Through it all, I watched Janet getting increasingly nervous, checking her phone, whispering with Madison when Bradley wasn't looking. Whatever they were planning was going to happen soon. Then I saw it. During a particularly loud moment of the band's performance, George slipped into the ballroom carrying a waiter's tray. But instead of heading toward the kitchen, he made his way to the gift table, where expensive presents from Chicago's elite were displayed. "Now, Sam," I commanded. The lights in the ballroom dimmed slightly as the massive screen behind the head table, supposedly for a photo montage later, flickered to life. But instead of wedding photos, it showed security footage from Janet's house. The first clip was from 2 weeks ago. Janet and George entering her house late at night. The timestamp was clearly visible in the corner. The audio was crystal clear thanks to my high-end security system. "The insurance will cover the jewelry," Janet's voice rang out through the ballroom's speakers. "Bradley will never know we're using it to pay off your gambling debts. We just need someone to blame." The room went dead silent. Bradley stood up so quickly he knocked over his champagne glass. But the video wasn't finished. The next clip showed Janet and Madison in Janet's study yesterday. Once Claire's reputation is ruined, Madison was saying, her security company will fail. Then Henderson Security Solutions can take over her contracts. Daddy's been wanting to expand into that market anyway. I hadn't known about that part of their plan. Bradley wasn't just a retired CEO. He was planning to use his daughter to take over my client base after they destroyed my reputation. The footage continued, showing George removing jewelry from the safe, Janet filing the insurance claim, Madison making calls to my clients suggesting they should be concerned about their security provider. Throughout the ballroom, phones were out, recording everything. I knew Janet's social circle. This would be all over Chicago by morning. Security breach, Janet screamed, trying to stop the video. Someone's hacking the system. Actually, Michael said, standing up at the head table. This is the system working exactly as it should. My wife designed it that way. Hotel security was already moving in, surrounding George before he could reach the gift table. Madison was frantically deleting something from her phone. But it was too late. I'd already backed up all her communications about their plan. The police are on their way, I announced, finally walking into the ballroom. Every head turned to watch me approach the head table. They're very interested in this insurance fraud scheme. And the corporate espionage angle. That's going to make fascinating headlines. Bradley's face had turned an interesting shade of purple. Madison? What is she talking about? But Madison was already being approached by hotel security, who'd found some very interesting items in her purse, including a flash drive containing confidential information about my clients that she definitely shouldn't have had. Janet stood up, her wedding dress rustling dramatically. You, she pointed at me. You're trying to ruin my wedding. No, Janet, I replied calmly. You ruined your own wedding when you tried to frame me for theft. I'm just providing security footage, what my company actually does. The police arrived moments later, the sight of Janet being questioned in her wedding dress, while George was handcuffed in his waiter's disguise, would probably end up in the society pages, though not quite the wedding coverage she hoped for. Bradley, to his credit, seemed more angry about the corporate espionage than the insurance fraud. You were going to use this wedding to steal her client list? He demanded of Madison. Do you have any idea how illegal that is? Daddy, Madison protested, she's not one of us. Her company's taking market share that should be ours. By providing better service and more advanced technology, I cut in. It's called competition, Madison. Though I understand that might be a foreign concept to someone who relies on Daddy's connections. The reception dissolved into chaos after that. Guests fled, police took statements, and Janet's perfect wedding became Chicago's newest scandal. Through it all, Michael stood by my side, his hand firmly in mine. I'm sorry, he said quietly. I knew my mother was capable of some pretty terrible things, but this? Don't apologize for her, I told him. You're not responsible for her actions. The aftermath was exactly what you'd expect. Janet and George were charged with insurance fraud. Madison faced corporate espionage charges. Bradley filed for annulment the next day, his reputation in tatters. My company? Our reputation for security and integrity was stronger than ever. After all, we caught the bad guys in the act. Our client list actually grew as word spread about how we protected ourselves from corporate theft. A week after the wedding disaster, I received a letter from Bradley's lawyer. Are you going to buy it? Michael asked when I showed him the letter. I thought about it for a moment. Yes, I decided. And I know exactly what to rename it, Thompson Integrity Systems. Because sometimes the best security comes from having integrity in the first place. The society pages had a field day with a story, of course. Security exporg expos rediging standal. Read one headline. Mother-in-law's revenge penalty basic kefires proclaimed another. But my favorite was from the business section. Thompson Security Utions expands exquires rival firm. Janet tried to contact me once after she made bail. I just wanted what was best for Michael, she claimed. A proper wife who would support him, not overshadow him. What's best for Michael, I replied, is having a partner he can trust. Something you clearly know nothing about. Last month, we hosted a company party to celebrate the merger. Michael insisted on making a toast. To my wife, he said, raising his glass, who taught me that real family is built on trust, not tricks. And that the best revenge isn't served cold. It's served with high-definition video evidence. Everyone laughed, but I was thinking about something else. That morning, I discovered I was pregnant. Michael and I were starting our own family, one that would be built on honesty, respect, and trust. And yes, a really good security system. The sapphire necklace Janet had claimed I stole. It turned up in a pawn shop in Milwaukee, where George had sold it to pay some gambling debts. I bought it back, anonymously, of course. It's in my office safe now, waiting for the daughter I'm carrying. Let Janet try to claim it's not for real family when her granddaughter wears it at her own wedding someday. Sometimes the best security isn't about cameras and alarms. Sometimes it's about making sure the truth comes out, no matter how well someone thinks they've hidden it. And sometimes the most satisfying revenge is simply letting someone's true character play out on a big screen for everyone to see. As for Janet, last I heard, she's planning wedding number 4. I sent her a gift, a top-of-the-line security camera system, with a note. Because everyone deserves to have their special moments captured on video. I made sure to include extra memory cards. After all, you never know when you might need to record something important.